Has there ever been a time when you have questioned who you are, or ever questioned why you are the person you are? Because of the prejudices in our society that being homosexual is morally wrong, does a person who is homosexual ever ask himself or herself why he or she is gay, or ever wish that that person wasn't gay in order to fit into society?
Right. I think that, well, that's part of the coming out process. That when you go through that, is like, oh, why me, kind of thing. And that's why, when I said, there was like 4 years where I didn't talk to anybody like that throughout high school. That's what I was dealing with. Was like, I grew up in a religious family and a religious home. So I went to church every weekend. And so that also played a huge part in me. I mean, being so closeted and not being able to come out right away, because, the person that I was, I was very involved with church. I was somebody who volunteered for everything. Like, I would volunteer to, set up, help out during, and clean up. I was a good person. I got good grades. So, like, I didn't understand, like, why that one aspect of me would cause me, like, quote unquote, go to hell when I was such a good person. And so that 4 years that I took, trying to figure out who I was or trying to change who I was, I finally came to the conclusion. I remember, one piece, I wish I remembered it earlier, was like that God doesn't make mistakes. And so after going through all that turmoil for 4 years and realizing that I wasn't a mistake, that that's who I was supposed to be, really helped. And it would have helped that if I had like, a mentor that would have told me that, earlier, but, that's really how I kind of reconciled the religion and society, because, how I was feeling wasn't a mistake. It was just who I was. And there wasn't anything that I could do to change that. And in retrospect, it probably was the best thing that happened to me, because it opened my eyes to lots of different things. I wouldn't have understood like oppression being a person of color had I not, come out as queer, because I was very, kind of quote unquote whitewashed growing up, not really understanding race dynamics, even though like people treated me a certain way because I was half Asian, and it was very obvious growing up, and I was very obviously picked out because everybody knew my last name Sugiyama, so everybody knew in my class that I was like quote unquote different. And I wouldn't have understood like how I was treated, how we grew up with racism, taught to us like how I was treating other people or how I perceived other people. So I really think there was a blessing in disguise, like overall, because the person that I am now, I totally appreciate how much I see versus how much I didn't see growing up.
What are several things that you would suggest that the rest of society do in order to diminish the oppression or the hate towards LGBT individuals?
I think a lot of what our society doesn't like. Our society likes to have opinions on things and not actually talk to people. They don't. We as a society, we tend to formulate our opinions based on what people tell us instead of about other people, instead of listening to people who actually have experiences. So we listen to the news to tell us about what poor people are doing and how they got there. And most of it's opinions, but we don't actually talk to poor people and find out, what their story was. Because if you actually talk to people and find out their story, it's this like huge struggle that like, maybe there was one bad decision and it ended up costing them like, hugely. Whereas, somebody else, may have had something positive happen, or they may have had, a friend or relative that could have helped them out in that situation, whereas other people, had that, but they don't really recognize the fact that they had that. They don't recognize that that's a privilege, that they had a family member who could maybe lend them $100 or watch their kids for them, So I think the same thing with anything in society, especially with queer issues, that if somebody got to know somebody who was queer or grow up with somebody who's like queer and out, then it would, then when you saw that on TV and heard what people are saying, you would know that that wasn't true.